Hey everybody, welcome back to the Earl and Rich podcast. We're here for week two right now. Fellas, last week we had a pretty good week. I think all three of us went 15-2 in our overall records. The only games we got wrong was the LSU one, which came down to the wire against USC, and then Vandy surprising us and getting that win against Virginia Tech was another surprise. So based off of predictions, we were we were right all over the list. But hey, those two games, if it's a good game, I don't mind being wrong. As long as if it's blowout one way or the other, hey, then I'm way off my rock. I gotta go do some more research. But hey, hopping into week two, we got another big weekend going on right now. Let's kick this off with Arkansas on the road taking on Oklahoma State at a 12 p.m. kick on Saturday. Arkansas came off a very good win. They looked like a team that knew what they was doing. They had the pieces they wanted. They was able to score. They moved the ball methodically up and down the field every time they got it. Albeit it was against a weaker opponent, but still, that's a confidence booster, especially in early in the season. To come out of fall camp, your first game, you're able to do what you wanted to do on offense, impose your will on another team before you go into another one. Now, Oklahoma State's coming into this ranked. They're 1-0. Ollie Gordon had his 27 carries, 100 over 100 yards, two touchdowns. They're going to be very run heavy, but at the same time, their passing attack went good with Bowman throwing for over 250 passing yards in that game also that they had. So it's going to be a good battle of wills. If I got to pick one going into this one, I'm going to go with Oklahoma State. In this one, being that it's a home game for them, I need to see Arkansas play not only on the road but against a tougher opponent and see if they can still withstand that back and forth and face a little adversity rather than jumping on somebody right out the gate and having control of the game from the complete start of the game to the end. But for this one, I am going to go Oklahoma State. I think they're just an overall more established team. They're full of veterans up and down the roster, offense and defense. They're battle tested. I think that's why they're ranked. I expect them to go into this game, fairly heavy run oriented and coming into the game as a 7.5 point favorite. I'm going with Oklahoma State in this one. What do you guys think?
I'm right there with you. I think this game will be more interesting than people give it credit for, but I don't think Arkansas is going to have the team to stop what Oklahoma State is going to bring to the table, which is going to be a really, really tough run game with a high caliber running back. Now, to me, if Arkansas can slow down the run game and make their quarterback more of a decision maker, I think that can get the swings in their favor. But to me, I think it's a test game for Sam Pittman and the head coach for Arkansas. I think it's really a test of what he's going to bring to the table. I think watching some of the stuff we saw in week one, this team does look different. It does like they got a little bit more swagger to them with the quarterback they got. I really like his play and how dynamic he was as a dual threat, running the ball and passing the ball and efficiently. I think it's something that can hold teams back. I think Oklahoma State just has more that they can bring to the table. I think they got more meat on the bones than Arkansas does right now. And I think Arkansas is still working through a new age of what they're trying to become early in the season. Now, if this game was later in the season, I think Arkansas would have more of an identity of what they truly going to be in a test type atmosphere. But going on the road and facing a team that has an elite identity and know what they're going to do, play in and play out, I don't think they're going to have enough. I think it's going to be close. I got Arkansas losing by 2 touchdowns. I got Oklahoma State around 28-35. And I got Arkansas looking around 14-21 in that kind of realm right there. But it's going to be a good game, though. It's something that we're going to have to pay attention to.
Yeah, I got Arkansas losing by 7 here. Y'all know I'm a big Sam Pittman fan. I have been. He just hasn't really been able to get it done. And it's partly because of where he's playing football. You know what I'm saying? Sam Pittman, if he was in the Big 12 coaching, you know what I'm saying, like in Nebraska or something like that, he probably would have better results. But he's in the SEC, was in the SEC West. Now he's in the combined SEC. It's just hard to compete there. But with all that being said, Oklahoma State is poised to win the Big 12. They have a lot more to fight for in this season than to lay an egg against Arkansas and lose this game. I believe Oklahoma State will win the Big 12 this year, but they need statement games against the SEC like this one to get it done. And I believe they're going to be completely prepared to do so. So I've got Oklahoma State by 7 in a really good football game, a much improved Arkansas from what we've seen in the past 2 or 3 years. But like y'all just said, Arkansas is not quite ready. If they continue on this trajectory, they can find themselves in the middle of the pack in the near future in the SEC. But right now, I still have them at the bottom half of the SEC. Oklahoma State at the top half of the Big 12. Oklahoma State by 7.
All right, moving on. We got our next game up is actually going to be Texas A&M. It's another game close to that 1 o'clock mark. They're playing at 12:45. It's A&M taking on McNeese at home. This game right here, I think, has got to be a bounce back game after what happened to A&M going against Notre Dame last week. To me, and that was one of the games that I was watching later in the evening. Just kind of keeping an eye on, and it looked to me like A&M kind of lost, like they didn't really know what they wanted to be offensively. Connor Wegman did not play well at all. He went 12 for 30 for only 100 yards, 3-yard average for his passing attempts, 2 interceptions. You look at the receiving core, you only had one guy with more than 3 receptions in that game. Nobody had over 35 receiving yards in that game. Also on the offensive side of the ball, I think the talent is there. Don't get me wrong. I just think that maybe they got caught in a overly hyped game with Notre Dame, and maybe it kind of made you rattle, kind of made you focus on, hey, we got to get some flash going. You're trying too hard. Weren't able to calm down in a night game, sold out crowd in your own environment, but I'll tell you what, for this one, A&M will get the win. It's time for them to kind of go back to the drawing board, use this week to figure out what works. Who are your ball players? Who can you get on the field that can make plays for you? This is kind of just a give me a test game. This is the game you were supposed to schedule for week 1 under a new head coach, not the number 7 team in the country in Notre Dame. So I think that we'll flip those two. They'll get the win easily in this one. I'm not going to say too much on it, but you got to go back to the drawing board if you're A&M to try to figure out what's going on down there in College Station.
Yeah, right there with you. This is week 1 for Texas A&M. Don't worry about last week. I think last week was just kind of like a let's get through it type of thing. Let's look the best we can, and we didn't even show up in that form or fashion. So when I think of what they did against Notre Dame, I like how the defense fought throughout the course of the whole game, really, really kind of fighting to the end where Notre Dame came with a late second half push to kind of push things over the top for them to get that dub. But to me, the offense has got to find their true identity. And I don't know what it's going to be yet with the new head coach and a truly, truly new regime for the Texas A&M fan base that's coming over, leaving Jimbo Fisher in the dust because he didn't do y'all no good in the past years that he's been there. So let's see what this new coach can do something like this. I like the rivalry in the aspect of the Duke old head coach versus the Duke old quarterback. But this week right here is nothing, no distractions involved, nothing but everybody just looking for a good win, good dub. I hope they put up as many points as possible because I think this defense kind of showed, given the momentum, they can kind of keep you in certain games. I don't know Notre Dame's not the most high efficient offense, but they can kind of keep you around and kind of make a push. I expect more out of the quarterback, especially with a terrible performance like he did. So get a big win this week. Go with Texas A&M. Knock them out.
Yeah, Aggies will win this one big. I'm a fan of Mike Elko. I think his story is going to kind of not mirror, but be kind of similar to when Saban got to Tuscaloosa. And I'm saying this because if you go back and look at Mike Elko and what he's done, it wasn't Saban-like necessarily, but the guy has an innate ability to connect with these kids, with all the kids that play for him. If you listen to his players that have played for him, they talk about him in ways that most kids don't talk about a head coach. From a respect perspective, right? I think there's respect given, respect earned, all this and that within that locker room. But that's the kind of thing that takes a little time to really show up on the field and on the scoreboard. So take last week, off the table, like you said, Drew. I completely agree with you there. This week is week one. They completely dominate this game and hopefully get on a positive trajectory in a completely wild SEC this season. I would just like to see them hang in and at least be middle of the pack when it's all said and done. But A&M really big in this game.
All right, moving on. We're heading over to Georgia at home, taking on Tennessee Tech. I'm not going to harp too much on this one. Georgia will win big. I want to see Georgia take this opportunity to get your play calling down at the beginning of the game and get the score up. Get those 28 points in the first quarter type of game so you can get your backups in there really early, get it done with. Hey, kudos for taking care of Clemson. I'll always appreciate it. Every Saturday, I'm always rooting for South Carolina and whoever's playing against Clemson. Georgia did their jobs. Yeah, they look really good. Just get rolling a little faster. You don't want those problems hanging around, especially this season with the schedule that Georgia has. And even going back to last year, some of these little teams, I think we were all texting last season, they would go up against one of these small teams, and you look at that first quarter score and you're like, all right, hold on, somebody lingering around a little longer than they should be, and then they would eventually take off in the second half, which is the same thing that just happened against Clemson. You got to get that mental hurdle out of the way. Georgia wins huge in this one. Tennessee Tech, I don't even think will score a field goal in this game. I think it'll be one of those 60-something to 0 type of games, but Georgia big in this one. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm kind of more on the side of I really don't care what Georgia does in this game, just because I know it's going to be so easy. I think they're really going to blow this team out by, I hope it's triple digits. I want to see him put up 100 versus a team like this just to show SEC dominance. But I think when you think about what Kirby Smart's going to bring to this game, it's just true domination from start to finish. I know he's going to have that Nick Saban mindset of dominating fully, especially after proving yourself in a week one. But let me say this real quick. Clemson, y'all got to get y'all stuff together because what I've seen coming from this game, we're looking at it more closely, it's not just that Georgia whooped y'all, but y'all didn't know what y'all was doing. So I do want to see Georgia keep its dominance and keep its terrain going in the right direction, but I don't even know if we're going to call Clemson a real opponent, what they showed on the tape last week. So it's something that we're not really going to talk about. But Georgia versus this week opponent, easy win. Put up 70 to 100 points on them. Do what you can. Get the backup Sam early, third quarter, and let's keep on pushing through. Go Dogs.
One thing I noticed about Georgia against Clemson that I think may have stung them early in that game is Georgia went to the transfer portal and they got a kid that looks a lot like Ladd McConkey.
Oh yeah.
They got a tight end that looks a lot like Brock Bowers, right? They're duplicating what they've been doing. My problem with that is if you don't do something different, people are gonna catch up with you. Now, it could have been the smoke screen, it could have been the vanilla playbook, it could have been us coming out, maybe letting you think that we the same Georgia we always have been or whatever. But my point is, if this year's Georgia team is gonna be basically the same team that they had last year, they're not going to win the SEC. They're not. It's not going to happen, especially with slow starts and better opponents and what I would consider a longer season, meaning you got more quality opponents all throughout the schedule. I'll save the rest of this for another day. It's going to come back up, I promise you. But Georgia really big in this game. They need to be figuring something else out because in 2 weeks they could have a problem. Go Dogs.
All right, moving on to our next one. We got a 3:30 game. We got Auburn at home taking on Cal. This game is gonna be. I'm gonna go ahead from the jump. I got Auburn in this one. I got them continuing what they did last week in this game. I think it'll be a little tougher an opponent. They might not put up 70 points in this one. Give me around the 30-point range, high 20s. But Auburn looked good. I tell you what, Peyton Thorne looked like a quarterback who was comfortable in the system that he was running last week. And albeit it's against Alabama A&M, you're supposed to look like that. But that's the thing. and we'll get into this one in another game we got coming up. But when you play somebody that you're supposed to beat up on, you want to see that team beat up on that team. Don't play around with them. Don't water down the offense or anything like that. They did what they were supposed to do. They got up on them fast. Hey, they got some receivers over there in Auburn that are streaking down the field and getting some long completions. I mean, you had what? You got one, two, three, four guys over 50 yards receiving and three guys over 80 yards receiving. So they got a good offense over there. They're putting it together. It's a little tougher test. I'll be interested to kind of keep my eye on, and I won't be watching the game, but I'll keep my eye on the score, see how they fare against Cal. Cal is another team that didn't really pass the ball last week. They played UC Davis, which is another just small school. They put up 31 on them, but at the same time, they tried to run the ball a lot. Only came out with 100 yards total with multiple people carrying the rock. I think Cal will just be outmatched by A&M and what they got going on over there. But I think it'll be an interesting game to see how Auburn plays against a slightly tougher opponent. But I got Auburn in this one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I like Auburn in this one. I thought Auburn really kind of I think they put together was showing that Hugh Freeze knew what he was doing coming into this next season of his regime in Auburn. They really look like they got a true identity of what they want to get accomplished. Quarterbacks playing more confident. You got stars on the outside that really making plays and doing things you want to do. Defense look like can really be a strong point and really show that they got a toughness to them rather than just kind of laying on their back and taking it the last couple of years like they've been doing. I think this game is a true test for Hugh Freeze, not in the aspects of opponent type test, but a focus type test to see if your team can really stay focused through a whole season and really put together the type of season that they ought to be putting together, what Auburn is known to be, what they should be. So I think this game right here is a game that's going to be tight in the first half. I think maybe a 7 to 10 point spread between each other in the first half, but I do see Auburn taking its leap in the second half, going up big. I got Auburn by a 4 touchdown lead in this game right here. I think they're really going to prove who I think they are. And I think having Hugh Freeze as a more seasoned coach with this team is going to show up in this type of game because I think Auburn is better than what we're going to give them credit for this season as of right now. I think they do have a better team than what a lot of people think they are. So I think they're going to show it in this game right here. I got to win in big versus Cal.
Hugh Freeze is a coach that has a system. Lane Kiffin is a coach that has a system. Nick Saban was a coach that had a system, meaning they ran stuff a certain kind of way. They looked for certain players, receivers, certain height, linebackers, certain height and weight, and 40 times this and that, whatever. They got a system. They're good coaches. When Hugh Freeze took over and Peyton Thorne came into Auburn, everyone was like, Peyton Thorne, and then when you watch him play, it's like I don't really see much. Now, last year you saw him do a lot of work with his legs that I didn't really know what he could do. And I'm saying to myself, okay, it looks to me like Hugh Freeze is working within the confines of his system, even if it means we're gonna lose some games in the first year, second year, third year. Hugh Freeze is trying to get to a place. Okay. And he's getting there. What you saw against Alabama A&M, as you said, even though the opponent was basically a high school team, I'm talking about the philosophy and what he's doing. He's pushing the ball down the field. He recruited receiver very heavy, whether it was transfer portal or out of high school. Hugh Freeze understands that Peyton Thorne needs receivers around him to make it work, and he's going to do some big things this year. I hate to say it. Auburn could be a problem, a sneaky problem, not to win a championship or nothing like that, but Auburn could derail somebody along the way. Keep an eye on Auburn. I got them winning this game 35-17, and the game is going to play a lot. 35-17 may be the score, but it's going to look a lot more like Auburn was that much more dominant, right? Meaning Cal may get some garbage points at the end, but I think Auburn takes this one easy.
All right, moving on. We got another 3:30 game. We got South Carolina on the road taking on Kentucky. Kentucky's walking into this one as a 10-point favorite. Um, I'm actually gonna go against it right now. I'm taking South Carolina in this one, regardless of what was seen last weekend. What has me taking them in this one is how good South Carolina's defensive line and linebacking group, that front seven look. This is the best defensive line that South Carolina has had in years. And these are the staples of when South Carolina is a good football team, is when they're able to rush the quarterback and not sit back and get into scoring matches with other teams, which I look at Kentucky and I don't see Kentucky as a team that's all the way put together. You've got pieces here and there. I don't really believe in Brock Vandegrift back there at quarterback. I think it's another, like I mentioned last week, I think he's another band-aid for actually going out and recruiting a stable quarterback for that program up there. Um, I really think that once you get some pressure on him, which he never really got under pressure last week, that he'll give it the ball up a couple of times. When it comes to South Carolina from the offensive standpoint, I think it was repeated several times a day in both of their press conferences that you got caught up trying to do too much. You've got the playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Rocket Sanders looked decent enough, to go out there and run the ball. He had 88 yards last week against Old Dominion after they, in this whole entire second half, loaded the box and put three people back in coverage, and he still came out with those yardage. I think what's going to happen is you get Lenoris to settle his feet, make some passes, get the passes game going. I think at that point in time, that's going to just open stuff up for Rocket. This is really going to be a ground and pound team. Both of those people hurting you with your legs is going to be a milk the clock kind of game, and the defense is going to stand strong and actually get this one on the road in Kentucky. But I got South Carolina winning this one.
Yeah, I'm more confused on this game. I think it's very, very interesting when you look at both teams. I don't know what's better for your team overall. Struggling week one and you figuring out what you got to fix to be the team you're supposed to be, or having a walkthrough and you working on things that you need to be working on. So I feel like you face both sides of it when you think about South Carolina, what they went through with Old Dominion versus Kentucky and what they went with Southern Miss in that aspect of the teams just not really performing. I think the way they really want to perform, having a conference game in week two. I think if you look at Kentucky's standpoint, you're still really trying to figure out your identity. I think the quarterback situation, throwing 3 touchdowns in any game week one, is a big kind of deal because it's not easy to do. But I think also with South Carolina's struggle, it's not looking to be a good start to the season for South Carolina. I think I'm going to have Kentucky in this one by a 10-point lead. Not really thinking that one team is much better than the other, but I think Kentucky knows what they want to do with the football more than I think South Carolina does. Defense is going to be an interesting standpoint. I think South Carolina's defense on an away field might not look the same it did versus Old Dominion in certain moments, but I think offensive wise, you're not going to get a much better efficiency level on the road in an SEC game week two. If you weren't looking that way in week one, I think, yeah, you might dial things back and get a little bit more simpler for the quarterback and the way things look. But I think South Carolina, to me, is a still team that doesn't have their identity set straight, especially with a young quarterback. So it's a lot more question marks on South Carolina's side than I do Kentucky's side. I think they're going to win this game by a narrow, low-scoring victory. I think it will be a drain the clock type game on both sides. But I think Kentucky is primed for bigger plays than South Carolina will be, which will result in more points. I got to win it by 10.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think Kentucky, well, for starters, like you said, having a conference game in week two is, and that's pretty strong. I mean, you see what happened to Florida State scheduling 2 conference games early. They basically out. You know what I'm saying? Typically you're going to be, scheduling a Western Kentucky and a UT Chattanooga while you're trying to figure these things out. But now you got, Carolina got a road game in Lexington. Both of them are trying to figure things out. But I think I just have more belief in Mark Stoops. And I say that with a grain of salt. I ain't talking about I really believe in him long term. But in this week, I think I believe in Mark Stoops a little bit more with the home field advantage, a little more consistency at quarterback. I do agree with you, Drew. It's going to be a very, very close game. I got it coming down to a field goal, but I got Kentucky coming out in the end.
All right, moving on. We got Ole Miss at home at 4:15, taking on Middle Tennessee. Ole Miss coming in this one as a 41-point favorite. Hey, it's business as usual. I expect them to repeat as what they did last week. Beginning of the season is definitely Lane Kiffin's season. This is when he really puts it on people and kind of gets the eyebrows raised and looking at these teams and saying, hey, this looks like a top 5 team, top 10 team. Of course, they're sitting at 6 right now. I think it's business as usual. I expect Jackson Dart to do the same thing like he did last week, throw the ball all over the yard, get over 400 yards passing, get all the receivers involved in it, maybe work on the running game a little bit, but this is very going to be a pass-heavy offense this season. So, but it really is going to be an easy win for them. I got Ole Miss taking this one. I'll take the 41 in this. Easy.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. If you're a betting man, take the points. I think this type of game that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss really love to watch. They really want to put film and tape on the board in this game right here. Get young guys in early and blow this team out the water early. So to me, I want to see Ole Miss's defense still be consistent more throughout the season. So this game right here is a definitely turnover type game I want to see from them. But I think when you think of Ole Miss, I really don't have too many question marks more than consistency. So can you be consistent from week 1 until it's the most important game of your season? And this was not it. So push through this one, get the big win, put up 70, 73 if you want to do that, and let's keep on moving.
Yeah, Jackson Dart becomes, a Heisman, not hopeful. He's already there, but he becomes, a favorite, I guess, if you will, after this game, just because of the sheer numbers, right? Just talking about numbers. He's going to throw for 350, you know what I'm saying? 4, 5 touchdowns, whatever case may be. They'll be able to do whatever they want to do. This is Lane Kiffin's deal. I think Lane Kiffin controls the narrative in Oxford in regards to the schedule. He makes sure he can go 7-0 before he really sees any true resistance or whatever. But by that time, he's so highly ranked and he got so many players that's being talked about to the point where if he loses 1 or 2, he still ends up in the top 10. Honestly, it ain't a bad formula. You know what I'm saying? At Ole Miss, he's doing what he's doing. It'll continue. I got him huge. Yeah, take the 41.5, 42, whatever. Ole Miss by a country mile.